Hi, I'm Anthony for City Backyard Veggies. Going to be spending this weekend harvesting a lot of my autumn crops. Been growing a lot of my veggies here for the last 10 to 12 weeks, and a lot of them now are ready to be taken inside to the kitchen, and I'm just going to try to stay on top of the gluts that I'm having across my various plantings. One of the first things I'm going to be doing is harvesting my cauliflowers, and just over here is my first planting, and I did start harvesting this at the start of the week. I took 3 heads off, but now looking at them, a lot of them are coming in. They're all ready to go. These are just ready. You can just see that the curds are just tight enough, but they are just starting to, if not careful, starting to loosen on the edges. And there's a lot of them showing up, so I'm going to be having to harvest a few heads. I have to get on top of them because, as you can just see there, a little bit of slug damage coming through. There was a lot of rain at the end of last week, and I actually thought I was going to lose a lot of these plants due to the moisture in the soil. Some of them did rot, unfortunately, but thankfully most of them pulled through. When it comes to deciding which heads to harvest, what I'm looking for is curds that are just starting to spread, and this one here is probably a day or two over. As you can see just over here, they're just starting to spread. Any more than that, it just gets too far off. Now the heads are quite okay size, they're not overly large, and I put that down to the fact that these plants were planted in a bit of a part shady spot. Now with my knife, I'm just gonna try to see if I can go. Beautiful. I would like to keep the leaves, but generally speaking these will go to chickens, and they seem to have a little bit of a mold issue on the leaves, so I'll throw them to the chooks. I won't be using them to eat, but that's the head. Cauliflower is one of my favorite brassicas to grow, and it's quite rewarding when you finally are able to grow a nice head that you can share with family and friends. They were planted out at 40 centimeter spacings in rows 40 centimeters apart, and they do need a lot of fertilizer, so I like to give them really strong doses of either liquid fertilizer, sulfate of ammonia, or dynamic lifter pellets. To control pests, especially in the warmer part of the year, I like to use pyrethrum. I tend to not net my brassicas. It's just I've got too many to plant out that I haven't got enough nets to go around, so I'm happy to use pyrethrum or any other contact spray you can find. Beautiful. The biggest culprits that I have to deal with are cabbage butterfly larvae, and slugs, especially now with these big rains. I am starting to see a few slugs come in, so keeping your snail pellets up, reducing the availability of hiding places for slugs is really important if you want to get good damage-free heads. I try to get 3 plantings of cauliflowers planted out in my patch every season. First planting goes out in February. Next planting just got planted out now in May, and the third planting will be in about that late July, and I find that I can still get them to produce really good heads that late in the season. Try to get yourself some warm season varieties. If you are planting in July, I find that they do better than the cool season ones. Another beautiful head here, perfect. Just finished to harvest 8 heads, really good size. Look, the slugs are getting to them, as you can see. Slugs are getting to them, so you are getting a little bit of rubbish and the like on them, but they'll just get washed off. But what I am impressed about is the fact that, generally speaking, the heads have stayed pretty much tight. The curds are staying tight and they're staying white. So the key here is that getting the right varieties for your patch is important. This variety is called Serenity. Had really good success with this, especially in the early part of the season when it's a bit warm. Also I've used the all year round variety that you get at your local hardware store. That's also done well for me in my context. Now I've just harvested those cauliflowers, I'm going to move over to my celeries. I still have 2 celery plants left. Got this nice big one here, and I've got a small one in the back, and we've run out of celery in our kitchen, so I'm going to harvest this one. Now this celery variety is just a store-bought seedling from my local nursery. Yeah, and getting them planted out in the garden early February was really the key for these. I found that they just really took off in the warm soils with the water. Now I've been harvesting these whole just to make a bit of space in this garden, but for that last planting I might keep that in the ground just as a pick and go. This one has to come out more to give a bit of space to the silver beet that's grown adjacent to it. In close. There you go. Beautiful. Bring it closer, show what it looks like. That's my celery. Actually gotten a lot bigger than the last ones I harvested. I've been harvesting these plants for about 4 weeks now, and I'm finding there's a lot more thicker stalks in here, but I'm hoping that it hasn't gone stringy or too strong of an aniseedy taste. Really happy with celery. I'm really excited and really glad I gave them a go this year. They actually weren't that hard to grow, surprisingly, as long as I kept up the water on them and kept the fertilizer going. Moving on from my celery, the next thing on the harvesting list is my silver beet, and I try to harvest this every 2 weeks. And I find, again, get it in early. I think that's the key secret to be able to harvest in winter, is to get your crops in while the ground's still warm. These were planted in March. It's probably my 4th pick of the plants at the moment. Again, the plants, relatively speaking, are looking quite clean. The issue I'm having is that when it's all this rain that we've been having, the leaves get dirtier, and so it's actually a bit of a pain to try to give them a clean. But it's just the price you pay for homegrown produce. I am still finding some of my plants are still getting this fungal disease, as you can just see right there, that little spotted line. Generally speaking, I don't like it, and I have treated it in the past. I'm hoping it usually comes along when the weather's quite warm and wet, so hopefully now that's starting to cool down and the rains have stopped a bit, this may not spread. I'm not seeing it on many leaves, just a few older ones. Hopefully it won't show up until later in spring. Continue on with my harvest, and the next thing on my list is this planting of pakchoi that I planted about 4 weeks ago. As you can just see here, the variety is called choi. It's a white stemmed variety, as you can just see right there. This is actually quite a nice one to eat. Very fast growing. I planted these out 4 weeks as seedlings, and are just a great veggie if you want to turn a bed over quickly in time for another planting. I do generally interplant these between my broccoli and my cauliflower seedlings. They do take up that space in between, and I'm able to move those plants off in time for the brassicas to grow through that space. I'd already harvested the first half of this bed during the week for dinner, and I'll come through and just clear out the rest of that bed, and then I'll make it ready for plantings later on today. As I'm harvesting these, I'm just removing the bottom leaves perfectly clean, and I'm just adding them to a container of cold water, and that way it just keeps them fresh, especially when they've been in the sun for a while. The sun will wilt the leaves, and it just makes them for a better storage when it comes to this harvest, because getting that heat off the leaves, I find makes the harvest last a lot longer in the fridge. My main driver in my patch is to try to grow as much of my own vegetables as I can, and growing pakchoi is a really easy way to increase the productivity of your backyard and the amount you harvest. They get turned around really quickly, so 4 weeks, and they take minimal fertilizer. All you need to do to make sure is they've got at least a somewhat sunny spot where they can, although they can grow in a part shady spot, and just a little bit, just one round of liquid fertilizer, and making sure they're just regularly watered, and they produce pretty quickly. In my garden, I plant pakchoi from about starting in February, the last planting in about September. Once we get into late spring and summer, it just gets too hot for these plants, and I don't find that they don't do as well. And there are other options for leafy greens that I can grow in the warmer months. Just finished harvesting that choi, half a basket. Now I'd already harvested the first round of that during the week, so this is just the other half, so it's plenty. So what I've done is I've given them a quick wash just to get it off that surface dirt, and I'm going to let them drip dry in this colander just to get that surface water off them, and then I'll store them in the fridge in a plastic bag wrapped up in a paper towel until I'm ready to use them, and then I'll give them a proper wash. And the final thing I need to harvest today is some wombok. I've been progressively harvesting these over the last 2 weeks, and in earlier videos I showed you how I harvest my first few heads, but the rains again aren't doing these guys any favors. And you can see some of this one, you can get when it starts laying down like that, just if I look at the leaves, you can just see a little bit of rot just starting to come through, but that's okay. I'll harvest this head. Looking at them, I will be at least harvesting a few of those heads in that corner there, a couple of these bigger ones here, move them on. I might leave a couple of smaller ones until such time, especially that one there, because I still have a bit of time. I don't have any new seedlings to go in this spot, so I might let them grow a little bit longer, and if I lose them due to the rain, then so be it. Just finished harvesting those wombok, 6 this time. Look, they are struggling with all that water, so I've had to take them out. Still a bit on the smaller side, but these are still perfectly fine to eat. It's just I had to save that crop before the rot sets in. Still got a few more there which I'll leave to grow out for another week or so, and if they seem to be starting to look like they're rotting as well, they'll come out. Just finished my harvesting for the day, and I'll show you my final haul. Got my cauliflowers, my handful of silverbeet, my celery, washed pakchoi, and my 6 womboks. So happy with the haul today. I need to find places to put these now in the fridge and so forth. So most of these will be going to my parents, and these will be going to my in-laws, and I'll just be spreading around the love a bit with neighbours and friends just to get through the glut. Happy for gluts, gives me a chance to give more to my neighbours and friends, but also with harvesting it gives me more space in the garden to start planting out a lot more of my seedlings as they're coming through at the moment. In terms of seedlings, I've been growing a few new womboks. From my last video I was giving everyone a recommendation to grow a few more womboks to plant out in mid-June. These ones just started germinating today, and they'll be ready to plant out in about 2 weeks. Got myself another 2 punnets of pakchoi. Again, they're germinating now. They'll be ready to plant out in about a week and a half's time. Here, these are my celeries, and I started planting these. They germinated about 2 weeks ago, but it takes a long time to grow. I think I'm better off just buying seedlings from the shop as opposed to growing my own seedlings. They seem to be taking too long. And I'm going to be trying to plant more celery. I don't have enough time to raise my own seedlings, so I've got a lot of cos lettuce, which I'm going to try to squeeze in here now, especially around that main bed near where the old celery patch is. And I'm going to be trying to plant in this season. I've been trying to grow unsuccessfully seedlings of spinach. It's just been a real nightmare for me, so bought 2 punnets, and I'm going to be transplanting these into the patch as well. In terms of other seedlings I'll be growing, I'm going to start another round of broccoli and my last round of cauliflower. My second planting of broccoli is just starting to form heads now, so that'll be harvesting in about 2 weeks time, and the third planting is already out. And now that we're moving into June, it's now time for me to start my spring seedlings, funny enough, especially my jalapenos, my capsicums, and my eggplants. All those varieties, they take at least 15 to 18 days to germinate, and they're very slow growing, and I want them to plant out in the garden on the first day of September, so I need to get them started now. Over the next few videos I'll show you what varieties I'm growing and how I'm going to be planting them out, starting to raise them. I'll be using heat mats, and I'll show you my little setup. I'll be also starting my tomatoes at the end of June for planting out in mid-August, and I'll show you what varieties I'll be planting. And before I wrap up this video, I haven't had a chance, but I wanted to show you my mandarin tree. And this imperial mandarin tree every year produces some real beautiful large fruit, and it's just starting to color up at the moment. I have been harvesting off this plant for the last 3 weeks. Kids have been taking a couple every day for lunch, and it's actually quite sweet considering it's still not fully ripened yet. I had learnt my lessons from last year. I left it too late last year to provide any support, but what I've done here is actually use my bamboo stakes to support all the branches. Just the load of the fruit breaks the branches, and I don't want them to break, so I'm allowing for these supports, and the plant actually just sits on these supports, and it actually just takes the load off the branches, so hopefully they don't break. I'm expecting it to start flowering again soon too, and I will need to add a little bit of fertilizer, and I will show you how I'm doing that. Now it's about the time to start adding fertilizer for next season. But really happy with how beautiful this fruit is, really large and really clean. Thanks a lot everyone for watching this video. I really appreciate the support. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave me a comment in this video or reach out to me on my socials, Instagram or TikTok. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.